speaking of Gophers, I think what a great place to start. Gophers are essentially one of the better teams in Minnesota in terms of college Division One. Although if you ask some Gophers fans, maybe not so much. They're 6-4-2. We're going to use the P word. We're not going to get too much weight to it, but 12th in the pairwise. But Pat, you've done some of their games. Tell me what you have noticed or have observed with the Gophers so far this season.
Well, I said last year, and a lot of people called me crazy, that I thought that they could have a better team this year. And you say that, and you lose 5 guys to the National Hockey League. But that being said, they're still a team trying to find themselves, and certain players on that team are trying to get to the point where they understand what their role is now, because you go from being one of the guys that is a helper, if you will, to now, the key, they're driving the car. And that's a big transition for anybody. I go back to when I was playing, Nick. I came in with a pretty heralded freshman group, and none of us were really expected to carry the mail. We were the secondary guys behind Scott Bukestead, Butsy Erickson, Steve Griffith. I could go on and on. We had a pretty good team. And then all of a sudden, those guys leave, and you're given the keys to the car. And all of a sudden, you have to realize that you have to be good every night. If you're one of the guys that is carrying the mail, well, you got to carry it every game. And that was difficult for me at first, and some of my other teammates who were also put in that role. And it takes time. It comes eventually. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I think a few of the guys on Minnesota are going through that now. They're a deep team. They've got very good goaltending. They're very strong up the middle. They have guys who can produce offensively. It's just getting to that point where, they've got to do it every shift. And they've had lapses in games that, quite frankly, have hurt them. So I'd be better judging them in January and telling you where they are, because I think by that point, along with Minnesota, there'll be a lot of teams that we can say, yep, that team has a chance to make a run. This team's a year away. This team is, not going to do it. So it's still, mid-November, end of November, and there's still time to figure all that out.
There's still plenty of time. And Pat, I kind of wanted to get your take on the Logan Cooley departure. Now, there was a lot of talk made about the timing of it. Now, Granted, when you and I have talked in the past, and I think all NHL bound talent would agree with this, is that when you get the call, you just got to go, right? Sometimes it just doesn't matter when it comes. Granted, there's some talk about circumstances behind the scenes here and there. I'm not sure if that really matters, but what's sort of your take when you said that Logan Cooley signed his entry-level deal with the Coyotes and looks to be actually having a pretty good start to his NHL career?
Well, I think the turning point came because I fully believed, and I think, and in even talking to Logan, all indications were he was coming back, and then he went to developmental camp, and he was by far not even close their best player, and he at that point, and even though you're not playing with the older guys, at that point he was so heads and tails above everybody else there that Arizona said, there's a spot for you. And then with Fantilli winning the Hobie and Fantilli signing the deal, there's a competitive rage inside of Logan Cooley that he wants to be better than Fantilli. He wants to be better than Bedard, and he wants to go head to head with him from the get-go. And so I think a lot of those factors played a part in it. And, you know, he looks like he belongs, and, you know, from what we've seen so far.
I would agree with that. Looks comfortable, and what a rookie race it's turned
Yep.
out to be for the Calder this year. It's actually going to be quite a fun for a lot of players, not
Yep.
just Bedard, but as you mentioned, Fantilli, Logan Cooley, just name a couple
Yep.
that could be in that race. So kind of going back to the Gophers, right? We mentioned this team is talented, and it's
Yep.
no doubt this team talented, but where folks have drawn some eye in terms of maybe a spot that there has been some growing pains has been in the defensive core. Now, we've paid a lot of attention to the offensive ranks, the talent that's up front, and that's still there without a doubt, even with Logan Cooley going pro. But where I think maybe some folks have said is, wait a second, let's not forget they had Brock Faber. They had a lot of great players in the defensive and then also went pro. Do you think that's also part of maybe why this team is having some nights here, nights there, where it's not necessarily consistent right now?
I can answer it this way. You had 3 guys that left that are playing in the NHL. And what those 3 possessed, this group does a little bit differently. So they're not going to be the same, right? Brock Faber, you know, elite skater. Jackson Lacombe, elite skater. Ryan Johnson, elite skater. All, you know, were able to join the offense. This group plays more of a station to station. Okay. They don't join the rush as much. I think it will progress as the season goes along. But then again, you've got Luke Middlestead, who I think will be an All-American defenseman this year. I think he's that good, and he's been that good. You will see his offensive game improve as we move along. Ryan Chesley, who I thought last year, and again, in one of those secondary roles, didn't feel any pressure, didn't have to, you know, can skate like the wind. He's played a little differently this year. He's been handed the keys. He's going to play 20 odd minutes a night. And so I think he is trying to digest that. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more. He got a little bit more offensive last weekend. Beautiful goal against Notre Dame. In fact, a winning goal. And so I think by January, we're going to see a different Ryan Chesley. Sam Renzel is going to be an all-star. I mean, the kid is 6'4", 215 pounds, can skate like the wind, can handle the puck. Every game he is getting better. So I preach patience to the D-core that they have. Then, Mike Kester, just returned from injury, so he's finding his legs. Good to have that veteran back there.
100%.
So I think they're different. They're not last year's group, but when you break it all down and when you see what they can become, I think there's good a group as there is in the country.